Welcome to Game of Theories, where we pick apart 3 of the most passionately clung to theories in George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, as well as give you the hope that even the most deceased characters may still breathe again. Show and book fans are more than welcome here, but beware the dreaded spoilers, as we'll be delving into content from the entire series, including A Dance with Dragons, the release chapters of The Winds of Winter, and the SS Encyclopedia, The World of Ice and Fire. I'm Kimmie Britt with Subcultured, and this episode is about the sweetest summer child of them all, Bran Stark.
Bran Stark, winter is coming.
Bran Stark is the youngest male child of Eddard and Catelyn Stark. Wait, no, Rickon! Everyone always forgets about Rickon, second youngest child of Ned and Cat, and is usually accompanied by his silvery direwolf, Summer. His adventurous nature sadly leaves him crippled and in a coma in A Game of Thrones, although partial thanks is due to Jaime Lannister, shoving him from a tower window. While comatose, Bran begins having dreams where he experiences the world through Summer's eyes before waking and learning he will never walk again. Around this time, Meera and Jojen of House Reed, Cranach been sworn to the Starks, arrive at Winterfell to renew their oaths of fealty, and Jojen helps Bran develop his wolf dreams into the ability to warg into the mind of Summer. Westeros widely believes Bran to have died during the sack of Winterfell and his storm of swords, including Jon Snow at Castle Black. However, House Bolton is on the hunt for both Bran and Rickon, as they are aware that the boys burned in the sack of Winterfell were only farmers' children, a scheme orchestrated by Theon Greyjoy in an attempt to impress his daddy. Theon murdered the farmers' boys in secret and then displayed their bodies to the entirety of Winterfell, with the small folk led to believe that they were their little liege lords in an attempt to coerce them to succumb to his will. As with all of Theon's great ideas, this plan ultimately backfired as Winterfell is overtaken by Bolton men, and Theon is imprisoned by the bastard Ramsay Snow. And the only response he received from his Lord Father was silence. After splitting up with his little brother Rickon and the wildling Osha, Bran travels north accompanied by Hodor and the Reeds, where they arrive safely at a cave located east of the Fist of the First Men. At the end of A Dance with Dragons, Bran meets one of the Children of the Forest, an ancient race of small, brown-skinned humanoids with names unpronounceable by the human tongue, whom he calls Leaf, because she's wearing a lot of leaves at the time. Stark children have no subtlety and should not be allowed to name anything ever. With Leaf is a man fused to a weirwood tree, who later reveals himself to be Brynden Bloodraven Rivers, an albino child of Targaryen and Blackwood descent. Long rumored to have been a sorcerer, Brynden was the inspiration for many songs in his prime, and was able to change his outward appearance at will thanks to a rumored stay with the Faceless Men across the Narrow Sea, before returning to King's Landing and becoming the Hand of the King for Aerys I. Ultimately, he was sent to the Wall for murdering Aenys Blackfyre after promising him safe passage to the Grand Council of 233 AC, meant to choose Maekar I's successor. And we don't really blame him. Who would swear fealty to a king named Aenys? Aenys. It was probably a good decision on the whole. Leaf mentions that she and Brynden have been waiting for Bran in order to train him as a greenseer, a person with magical abilities that included power over nature and prophetic visions. They serve him a paste to strengthen his skin-changing abilities, and Bran falls into a sleep full of dreams of the past. With Bran's training of the utmost importance, let's go over what path his development could take in The Winds of Winter.
Theory 1. Bran will become the newest Old God. What was he now? Only Bran the Broken Boy, Brandon of House Stark, Prince of a Lost Kingdom, Lord of a burned castle, heir to ruins. He had thought the three-eyed crow would be a sorcerer, a wise old wizard who could fix his legs, but that was some stupid child's dream, he realised now. I'm too old for such fancies, he told himself. 1,000 eyes, 100 skins, wisdom deep as the roots of ancient trees. That was as good as being a knight. Almost as good anyway. Bran Stark, Bran, Chapter 3, A Dance with Dragons.
Bran has accepted his fate, that he'll end up like Brynden Rivers, fused to a weirwood, and watching life progress through the eyes of the heart trees. While there are a lot of theories floating around that feature Bran becoming a great warrior for the songs, our thoughts lean more towards the idea that he'll become one of the old gods. We have the feeling Bran's resignation will ultimately be overpowered by his love of adventure. But for now, let's look at the facts. Leaf mentions upon Bran's arrival that they've been waiting for him specifically, and that she has been studying the tongue of man for the past 200 years, so she could properly speak with Bran when the time came for him to train with the last greenseer, Brynden. Bran hones his warging skills further under the three-eyed crow, and with Brendan's tutelage, he graduates to skin changing, first into a raven, then to the mind of Hodor, and most importantly, the weirwoods.
The Greenseers were more than that. They were wargs as well as you are, and the greatest of them could wear the skins of any beast that flies or swims or crawls, and could look through the eyes of the weirwoods as well, and see the truth that lies beneath the world. Jojen read, Bran, Chapter 1, A Storm of Swords.
With virtually endless information sitting at his fingertips whenever he plugs into wirewood.net, Bran could have an eye on everything, past, present, and future. Under Brendan's tutelage, Bran would be able to see all of Westeros, and in some cases even communicate, as demonstrated with Theon, through Winterfell's heart tree in A Dance with Dragons. Weirwoods are scattered throughout the realm, from the black and white door in Braavos where Arya is being trained as a faceless man, to the Erie's moon door where Sansa is currently hidden away as the bastard Elaine Stone. Even the table sitting in the quarters of the Kingsguard. Old gods in general didn't do much of anything other than commune with nature and speak through the trees and animals. So it remains to be seen if the fact that Bran potentially can speak through weirwoods will influence any affairs. In the past, old gods tended to be faceless, always watching but never meddling in anything. Yeah, we doubt Bran will be able to watch events unfold and leave things be, particularly where his family is involved, but if his powers are consistently described as strong, it's unlikely George R.R. Martin would mention his ability to speak and then confine him to being a mere bystander. It's not a particularly interesting path for his character. However, Brendan is very old, and someone has to take over as the last Greenseer when he kicks the bucket. Although watching people through carved tree faces for the rest of Bran's years seems like a particularly creepy fate.
Theory 2. Bran's story will parallel the tale of the last hero.
From the beginning of the series, we've had a hefty helping of Bran Stark point of views, and it's clear his story lies not in the politics plaguing the realm, but instead is geared towards the three-eyed crow and his abilities. Bran's chapters are littered with stories he remembers from his childhood, and one in particular stands out, that of the last hero.
So as cold and death filled the earth, the last hero determined to seek out the children, in the hopes that their ancient magics could win back what the armies of men had lost. He set out into the Deadlands with a sword, a horse, a dog, and a dozen companions. For years he searched, until he despaired of ever finding the children of the forest in their secret cities. One by one his friends died, and his horse, and finally even his dog, and his sword froze so hard the blade snapped when he tried to use it. And the others smelt the hot blood in him, and came silent on his trail, stalking him with packs of pale white spiders as big as hounds. Ode Nan, Bran Chapter 4, A Game of Thrones.
Bran has traveled north to seek the three-eyed crow, has found himself in the presence of many children of the forest, and has taken a sword from the crypts of Winterfell. While he didn't quite travel by horse, he did ride an elk, which is totally kind of a horse with antlers. He's accompanied by a direwolf, and if that isn't enough, he additionally encountered and traveled with exactly 12 human companions. Jojen, Hodor, Luwin, Osha, Mira, Rickon, the Little, Sam, Gilly's baby, Cold Hands, and Blood Raven. Humans kind of stretching it towards the end, but we'll still take it. At the end of the story, the last hero appears to have lost everything before he was able to defeat the White Walkers. This could mean that there's much more tragedy left in Bran's storyline, and Jojen's rapidly failing health at the end of A Dance with Dragons is the next parallel in the last hero's tale. Bran's current location should also be considered. The cave itself is warded against whites and the others, and inhabited by a group historically against both, the Children of the Forest. The children allied with the first men to defeat the others during the Long Night many years ago. As they've spent a lot of time and energy to get Bran to them via Jojen's green dreams, it's evident they believe him to be some sort of champion. Bran is definitely in place to step up and convince the Children of the Forest to go to battle against the others once again and remake the old allegiance with the first men of the current age, the Northmen faithful to the old gods. Whether Bran will do this in person or while tapped into the Weirwoods as a mediary between the humans and the Children of the Forest, that remains to be seen. With the pact made anew, an army of sorts will be waiting when winter comes, ending in the defeat of the mysterious others.
Theory 3. Bran will head further north to the land of always winter.
Broken? Bran thought bitterly as he clutched his knife. Is that what he was now? Bran the Broken? I don't want to be broken! He whispered fiercely to Maester Luwin, who'd been seated to his right. I want to be a knight!
Bran Stark, Bran Chapter 6, A Game of Thrones.
In an interview with Smarter Travel Blog in 2012, George R. R. Martin states that readers will be exploring the mysterious land of always winter more in the last 2 books of the series. At A Dance with Dragons' conclusion, Cold Hands, Hodor, and Mira were recuperating from the long journey while Bran kind of got it on tree style. There's nothing for these characters on their current agenda, aside from waiting for Bran to complete his training, and we want to see the diverse group be utilized by George R. R. Martin to start the northern exploration. Let us also remind you that the Whites and the others are currently hanging out outside that cave. The mysterious, gravelly-voiced Cold Hands has proven adept at both killing and subduing this sort of threat. Hodor, while sort of mentally helpless, is physically strong and will listen to direction. Mira is just great, you guys. A skilled fighter, smart on her feet, and patient enough to guide Hodor in this scenario. The last member of our mini-fellowship is Leaf. A child of the forest has to know some secret passageways and roads to forgotten places, right? Leaf is well placed to fully supply everyone and point them in the right direction, which is north, for a bajillion miles. Poor Jojen Reed, however, is not long for this world, based off a green dream he had about his own fate. Jojen's grown steadily weaker since the group left the Night Fort and met up with Cold Hands, and although he speaks of returning to home in Greywater Watch, his deteriorating health says otherwise. Since Bran needs to stay with old man-tree Brendan to learn all the Greenseer skills, he'll be perfectly set up to peek in on events from time to time by skin-changing into Hodor, assuming distance isn't a problem.
Why can't Bran just do this the entire time his friends are making their way north?
Let's not forget one of Jojen's first lessons. The longer one's skin changes, the more likely one could lose himself. Plus, we've read all about Brendan speaking to people via dreams without moving an inch, so it's plausible Bran can be taught to do the same. As this group waits around doing nothing, there are a ton of very real threats to the realm, literally outside their door. An ideal situation for George R. R. Martin to utilize these characters to explore a territory he has stated is important. This particular theory doesn't rule out any of the others, and one way or another, winter is coming. That's all we got for the little lordling Bran Stark, but we'd love to hear your favorites. Let us know in the comments below, or tweet to us at Subcultured with the hashtag GameOfTheories. Check out subcultured.com and be sure to subscribe to us here for more theories on your favorite characters that you love and hate from A Song of Ice and Fire. Salam Magulas.